What if I told you that a few words, seemingly simple phrases, can be the key to recognizing whether someone truly respects you or not? It's easy to dismiss certain comments as just words, but words carry weight. They reveal intent, shape relationships, and can either build us up or tear us down. Here's the problem. Too often, people ignore red flags in the form of words because they're caught up in the moment, hoping things will improve, or simply unsure of what they deserve. And here's the reality. Words are not harmless. When someone speaks to you in a way that diminishes your worth, you must make a choice, not for them, but for yourself. Now, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever been told you're too sensitive, or no one else would put up with you? Did you let it slide, hoping the person didn't mean it? The harsh truth is, ignoring toxic words can lead to a slow erosion of your confidence and self-esteem. But what if I told you there's a solution? That by recognizing these phrases for what they are, you can not only protect your worth, but reclaim it with the clarity of Stoicism. This video is your guide to identifying those dangerous phrases and why they're so harmful. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of how to set boundaries and walk away when needed. Because here's the truth. Your worth is non-negotiable. Stay with me, and let's dive into the first thing they might say that should make you leave immediately. 1. You're too sensitive. How often have you heard the words "you're too sensitive" when you voiced a concern or expressed an emotion? Maybe it was after someone made a joke at your expense, dismissed a heartfelt moment, or criticized you harshly. At first, you might brush it off. After all, everyone has moments where emotions run high, right? But let's pause and reflect. What does this phrase truly mean when someone uses it against you? At its core, "you're too sensitive" isn't an observation, it's a deflection. It shifts the focus away from the person's behavior and onto your reaction, placing blame on you for how you feel. This tactic is subtle, but it's powerful. Over time, it can make you question your emotions, silence your concerns, and even cause you to doubt your self-worth. From a Stoic perspective, emotions are natural, but how we respond to them defines our character. Stoicism doesn't ask us to suppress our feelings or ignore our pain. Instead, it encourages us to examine emotions with clarity and use them as a guide for thoughtful action. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Yet this wisdom doesn't excuse others from responsibility. When someone dismisses your emotions with "you're too sensitive," they aren't encouraging you to grow, they're refusing to meet you with respect. Consider the impact of these words. What does it feel like when someone tells you this? For many, it's a mix of confusion, shame, and self-doubt. You might think, am I really overreacting? Should I have stayed quiet? These thoughts can spiral, leading you to question your worth and silence your voice in future situations. This is the real danger of this phrase. It erodes your confidence over time. Now, let's ask, why do people say this in the first place? Sometimes it's a defense mechanism. A person may use this phrase to avoid accountability, shifting the conversation away from their actions and onto your reaction. By labeling you as too sensitive, they dodge the responsibility of examining their behavior or apologizing. In other cases, it reflects a lack of emotional awareness. People who are uncomfortable with vulnerability or introspection may struggle to validate others' feelings. Instead of engaging in a meaningful conversation, they dismiss emotions they don't understand or wish to avoid. But here's the truth. Dismissing someone's feelings doesn't make them disappear. It invalidates a person's experience and creates distance in the relationship. Genuine connections, what we might call Stoic relationships, are built on mutual respect, understanding, and a willingness to engage with one another's humanity. When someone tells you "you're too sensitive," they undermine the foundation of that connection. How should you respond when faced with this phrase? A Stoic approach would encourage calm reflection and assertiveness. First, take a moment to ground yourself. Remember, their words are a reflection of their perspective, not a definitive judgment of your character. Respond with clarity. "I'm not too sensitive, I'm just expressing how I feel. If something bothers me, I believe it's worth addressing. This kind of statement reclaims your voice without escalating the situation. However, it's crucial to observe how the person reacts to your response. Do they take the opportunity to listen and engage, or do they double down on dismissiveness? If it's the latter, you're faced with a critical decision. Is this someone who truly values you and your feelings? The longer you allow someone to dismiss your emotions, the more it chips away at your self-esteem. It creates a dynamic where your concerns are minimized, leaving you feeling unheard and undervalued. Over time, this can create a toxic environment where your voice is silenced altogether. And here's the Stoic truth. Your voice matters. Your feelings matter. You deserve relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, that honor your humanity and encourage your growth. Leaving when someone repeatedly tells you you're too sensitive isn't about being dramatic or overreacting. It's about setting a boundary and protecting your worth. Walking away sends a powerful message, not to them, but to yourself. It says, I value my emotions and experiences enough to seek out people who do the same. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever stayed silent after being called too sensitive, just to avoid conflict or further dismissal? How did that make you feel? Now imagine a different outcome, one where you responded with calm confidence and walked away if necessary. How might that choice have changed your perception of yourself? The stoicism here lies in recognizing your power. You can't control how others speak to you, but you can control what you tolerate and how you respond. So when someone dismisses your feelings as oversensitivity, let that be a red flag, not a reason to stay. Protecting your worth isn't just a choice, it's a commitment to your own growth and self-respect. By standing firm in your boundaries and valuing your emotions, you embody the Stoic principle of living in alignment with your values. And that, ultimately, is the path to a more fulfilling and authentic life. 2. You'll never find anyone better than me. Have you ever heard someone say, "You'll never find anyone better than me"? At first glance, this phrase might sound like confidence, but let's unpack it. Is it confidence, or is it a thinly veiled attempt to control you? Because when someone uses these words, what they're really saying is, "You're lucky I'm here, and I want you to believe that so you'll stay." This statement is not about love, care, or respect, it's about power. It plays on fear, creating a narrative that you are somehow inadequate without them. But let me tell you something. No one who truly values and loves you would ever make you feel like you're trapped. Real relationships, Stoic relationships, are built on freedom, not fear. They inspire you to grow, not shrink. When someone says, "You'll never find anyone better than me," take a moment to question their intentions. Why would a person who claims to care about you want to make you feel small? Why would they try to convince you that you're incapable of finding joy or love outside of them? These questions are vital because they force you to see the deeper truth. This phrase is not about your worth, it's about their insecurity. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own actions, thoughts, and self-perception. If you internalize these words and start to believe them, you're giving that control away. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, if you allow someone else's fear-based words to dictate your view of yourself, you lose the power to define your own worth. Let's be clear. Your worth is not tied to one person's opinion. The idea that you'll never find anyone better is an illusion designed to keep you stuck. The world is vast, filled with people who could appreciate you for who you are. People who would never dream of using fear to hold on to you. Imagine the kind of love and respect you could experience with someone who builds you up instead of tearing you down. If you've ever been in this situation, you know how damaging it can be. Over time, hearing these words might make you question whether you truly deserve better. But here's the truth, you do. When someone says, "You'll never find anyone better than me," what they're really doing is projecting their own fear of inadequacy onto you. They're afraid you'll realize your worth and leave. This is where Stoicism becomes a powerful tool. Instead of reacting emotionally or feeling trapped, use this moment to reflect. Ask yourself, does this person genuinely want the best for me, or are they trying to keep me under their control? Does this relationship empower me, or does it rely on making me feel less than I am? If the answers reveal that the relationship is based on manipulation or control, the most stoic action you can take is to walk away. Leaving isn't easy, especially when fear is involved, but it's the ultimate act of self-respect. By choosing to leave, you reclaim your power and send a clear message to them and to yourself that you refuse to settle for anything less than what you deserve. Before we move on, let's take a moment to engage with this idea together. If you're watching this and believe in protecting your worth, like and comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me on this journey. And if you're finding this video helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Remember, true confidence in a partner doesn't come from making you feel like you're stuck with them. It comes from supporting you, respecting you, and wanting the best for you whether you're with them or not. That's the foundation of a healthy, stoic relationship. If someone tries to convince you otherwise, it's time to leave. You owe that to yourself. 3. I was just joking. Stop overreacting. How many times have you heard someone say, "I was just joking"? Stop overreacting, after they've said something that stung? Perhaps it was a comment about your appearance, your choices, or something deeply personal. At first, you might question yourself. Was it really just a joke? Am I being too sensitive? But here's the truth. When someone uses humor to hurt and then dismisses your reaction, they're crossing a line. Humor can be a beautiful thing. It connects people, lightens the mood, and fosters joy. But when humor is weaponized, it becomes a tool for manipulation. The phrase "one was just joking" often hides a deeper intent: to undermine, to deflect, or to diminish your feelings. The follow-up, "Stop overreacting," is an attempt to make you feel foolish for expressing your discomfort. Together, these phrases create a toxic cycle of gaslighting where you're left doubting your perception of what happened. Let's take a step back and examine why this phrase is so harmful. First, it invalidates your feelings. When someone tells you to stop overreacting, they're not addressing the real issue, they're avoiding accountability. Instead of considering how their words impacted you, they shift the focus onto your reaction, making you feel like the problem. This not only dismisses your emotions, but also discourages you from speaking up in the future. Second, this phrase undermines trust. Healthy relationships, what we can call stoic relationships, are built on mutual respect and understanding. When someone hides behind "I was just joking," they create an environment where you're constantly second-guessing their intentions. Are they being genuine, or are they using humor as a shield for hurtful behavior? Without trust, relationships lose their foundation, leaving you walking on eggshells, unsure of where you stand. From a Stoic perspective, this situation offers an important lesson. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This wisdom reminds us that words carry moral weight. Even under the guise of a joke, words can harm. If someone uses humor as an excuse for cruelty, it reflects a lack of self-awareness and emotional maturity, qualities that are essential for a meaningful connection. Now, let's turn the focus inward. When faced with this phrase, how should you respond? Stoicism teaches us to approach challenges with calm clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally, pause and assess the situation. Did the comment truly come from a place of good-natured humor, or was there an underlying intention to belittle you? If it's the latter, address it directly but calmly. For example, you might say, "I understand that you were joking, but it still hurt. I'd appreciate it if you could consider how it comes across next time." This kind of response does two things. First, it sets a boundary, letting the other person know that their words have consequences. Second, it gives them an opportunity to reflect and grow. However, if they dismiss your concerns again or accuse you of being too serious, it's a clear sign that they're unwilling to respect your feelings. Here's where the deeper question arises. Do you want to remain in a dynamic where your emotions are repeatedly invalidated? Stoicism emphasizes the importance of living in alignment with your values. If respect and understanding are values you hold dear, then it's worth asking whether this relationship supports them. Staying in a situation where "I was just joking" "Stop overreacting" becomes a regular refrain can slowly erode your confidence and self-worth. Over time, you might start suppressing your emotions to avoid conflict or ridicule. This isn't a path to growth, it's a path to self-neglect. And Stoicism reminds us that we have a duty to protect our inner peace and integrity. Ultimately, walking away from someone who refuses to take accountability isn't about being dramatic or unforgiving. It's about self-respect. It's about acknowledging that your feelings matter and that you deserve relationships where humor uplifts rather than tears down. Reflect on this. How many times have you stayed silent after hearing this phrase, just to keep the peace? And what has it cost you? Now imagine a different outcome, one where you calmly assert your boundaries and, if necessary, choose to leave. What kind of strength and clarity could that bring to your life? The Stoic choice is always to honor your principles and protect your worth. If someone consistently dismisses your emotions under the guise of humor, let that be a sign it's time to leave. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind is priceless and no joke is worth compromising it. 4. If you really loved me, you would. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said, "If you really loved me, you would"? This phrase might seem innocent or even romantic at first glance, but let's dig deeper. What does this statement truly mean? Is it an expression of love, or is it a manipulative attempt to control your actions? Let's break it down. When someone says, "If you really loved me, you would," they're creating a conditional framework for your love. In other words, they're saying your love is valid only if you meet their specific demands. This isn't love, it's emotional coercion. Love should never be a bargaining chip, and relationships should never feel like a series of tests you must pass. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt pressured to do something because of this phrase? Maybe it was something small, like canceling plans to prove your commitment. Or perhaps it was something much bigger, something that went against your values or boundaries. How did it make you feel? Most likely it left you questioning your worth, as though your love was constantly being measured and found lacking. From a Stoic perspective, true love is rooted in mutual respect and shared values, not in manipulation or conditional demands. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. If someone is asking you to prove your love by compromising your integrity, they're not asking for love, they're asking for control. Why is this phrase so harmful? For one, it creates a power imbalance. The person making the demand positions themselves as the authority on what love should look like, while you're left scrambling to meet their expectations. Over time, this dynamic can erode your sense of self, making you feel like you're constantly falling short. Second, it turns love into a transaction. Instead of being freely given, love becomes something you have to earn. This not only undermines the relationship but also contradicts the essence of Stoicism, which teaches us to act with integrity and remain true to ourselves. In a healthy, Stoic relationship, love is not conditional. It's a mutual exchange that uplifts both individuals. So how should you respond when faced with this phrase? The Stoic approach is to pause, reflect, and assess whether the demand aligns with your values. Ask yourself, is this request reasonable? Does it come from a place of genuine care, or is it an attempt to manipulate me? If it feels like manipulation, calmly set a boundary. You might say something like, "I understand that this is important to you, but I can't make decisions about my love based on ultimatums." Love isn't about proving anything, it's about mutual respect. If the person continues to use this phrase as a tool to control you, it's a clear sign that the relationship lacks the respect and trust needed to thrive. And this is where the difficult but necessary decision comes in. Walking away isn't about giving up, it's about protecting your worth and staying true to yourself. Imagine a relationship where love isn't conditional. A relationship where you're valued for who you are, not for what you can do to prove your feelings. That's the kind of connection worth pursuing, and it's possible when you refuse to accept manipulative phrases like "if you really loved me, you would." Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where someone used this phrase against you? How did it make you feel? Share your experiences by liking this video and commenting number 1 below if you've ever encountered this kind of emotional manipulation. And if you're finding these insights helpful, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more powerful lessons on protecting your worth and building Stoic relationships. Remember, love that requires constant proof isn't love, it's control. And Stoicism teaches us that control over others is never the goal. True love respects your autonomy, your values, and your worth. If someone tries to tell you otherwise, it's time to leave. You deserve better, and deep down you already know that. 5. You're lucky to have Maine. Imagine sitting across from someone who looks you in the eye and says, "You're lucky to have me." At first, this might sound like a playful or confident statement, but let's pause and dig deeper. What does this phrase truly imply? Is it a lighthearted compliment, or is it a veiled attempt to assert superiority in the relationship? When someone says, "You're lucky to have me," they are often implying that they are doing you a favor by being with you. This creates a dynamic where gratitude is expected to flow in only one direction, toward them. But in healthy relationships, gratitude is mutual. Each person should feel fortunate to have the other, and neither should feel like they are superior or indispensable. This statement also raises an important question. Why does someone feel the need to say this? Confidence is one thing, but when it crosses into arrogance, it becomes a problem. Often this phrase reveals insecurity disguised as superiority. They may be trying to reinforce their value in the relationship because deep down they're afraid of being seen as inadequate. However, this insecurity doesn't justify putting you in a position where you're made to feel small. From a Stoic perspective, true confidence is quiet and grounded. It doesn't need to be announced or used as leverage in a relationship. Stoicism teaches us to value humility and to focus on our actions rather than words to reflect our worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Similarly, in relationships, it's not about proclaiming your value, it's about showing it through your actions, respect, and care for the other person. Let's examine the impact of hearing this phrase over time. When someone repeatedly tells you, "You're lucky to have me," it shifts the balance of the relationship. Instead of feeling like an equal partner, you might begin to question your own value. You might start to believe that they're right, that they're doing you a favor by staying with you. This can lead to a loss of self-confidence and a growing dependency on their validation. But here's the truth. You bring just as much value to the relationship as they do. Whether it's your kindness, your support, your intelligence, or your unique perspective, your presence in the relationship is a gift. No one has the right to make you feel like you're less than or like you're fortunate just to be in their orbit. So how do you respond when someone says, "You're lucky to have me"? The Stoic approach would be to address it calmly and assertively. You might say, "I'm grateful for what we have," but relationships aren't about one person being lucky. They're about both people valuing and respecting each other equally. This kind of response shifts the focus away from their superiority and onto the mutual nature of a healthy connection. If this phrase becomes a recurring theme in your relationship, it's a sign of deeper issues. Healthy relationships, what we might call Stoic relationships, don't rely on one partner inflating their importance. Instead, they are built on shared respect, where both people feel seen, heard, and valued. Now, let's consider the broader implications. What kind of relationship do you want? One where you're constantly reminded of how lucky you are to be with someone, or one where both of you feel equally grateful for and invested in the connection? The first creates imbalance and dependency. The second fosters growth and fulfillment. Walking away from someone who regularly says, "You're lucky to have me," isn't about rejecting them. It's about rejecting a mindset that undermines your worth. It's about choosing relationships that align with your values and honor your self-respect. Ultimately, the Stoic lesson here is clear. Never let someone convince you that your worth depends on their presence in your life. Your value is intrinsic, and the right person will see and appreciate that without needing to remind you of their supposed superiority. If someone can't meet you as an equal, it's time to leave, not out of anger or pride, but out of respect for yourself and the kind of life you want to build. 6. No one else would put up with you. Have you ever been told, "No one else would put up with you"? It's a phrase designed to hit you where it hurts, to make you feel unworthy of love or acceptance beyond the person who's saying it. On the surface, it might seem like a throwaway comment, but let's be clear, this statement is a weapon. It's not just an insult, it's a form of emotional manipulation aimed at keeping you in your place. When someone says, "No one else would put up with you," they're planting seeds of doubt in your mind. They want you to believe that you're flawed or difficult, and that you're lucky to have them because no one else could handle you. This isn't love, and it certainly isn't respect. It's a tactic to make you feel small and dependent, as though you should be grateful they're sticking around despite your so-called flaws. But let's pause for a moment and challenge this idea. Who defines what makes you worthy of love or acceptance? The truth is, no one gets to decide your value except you. Stoicism teaches us that our worth is intrinsic. It's not something that others grant or take away. Marcus Aurelius reminds us you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This applies here. Someone else's opinion of you doesn't define you, and their attempt to make you feel unlovable says more about them than it does about you. Let's look at the impact of this phrase over time. Hearing "no one else would put up with you" repeatedly can erode your self-esteem. You might start to internalize it, thinking maybe they're right. Maybe I'm too much or not enough. But this is exactly what the person wants, to create a narrative where you feel stuck, where leaving feels impossible because you've been convinced no one else will accept you. Ask yourself this: would someone who genuinely cares about you ever say something so cruel? Would they weaponize your insecurities to keep you tethered to them? The answer is no. True love is about building each other up, not breaking each other down. It's about creating a partnership where both people feel valued and respected, not one where you're made to feel like a burden. So how do you respond when someone uses this phrase? The Stoic approach is to remain calm and grounded in your self-worth. You might say something like, "I don't believe that's true, and I don't appreciate you speaking to me that way." This response sets a clear boundary and rejects the narrative they're trying to impose. It reminds both them and yourself that you are not defined by their opinion. However, if this phrase becomes a pattern in your relationship, it's a serious red flag. It shows a lack of respect and a willingness to manipulate you into staying. This isn't the foundation of a healthy Stoic relationship. It's a dynamic built on control and fear. Leaving a relationship where this phrase is common isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's an act of self-respect. It's a declaration that you refuse to let someone else dictate your worth or make you feel like you're unworthy of love. Before we move on, let's take a moment to connect. If this resonates with you, if you've ever heard these words or recognized their toxic impact, like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know you're taking steps to protect your worth. And if you're finding value in this content, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more insights on Stoicism and how to build healthier, stronger relationships. Remember, the people who truly love you won't tell you that no one else would put up with you. Instead, they'll make you feel valued, cherished, and appreciated for exactly who you are. If someone tries to convince you otherwise, it's time to leave, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to demand better. You deserve relationships that honor your worth, not ones that diminish it. Don't ever let anyone make you forget that. 7. You're overthinking it. Have you ever expressed a concern or shared a thought only to be met with, "You're overthinking it"? At first, this phrase might seem harmless, even comforting. But let's take a closer look. Is it truly an attempt to help you, or is it a way to dismiss your thoughts and shut down the conversation? When someone says, "You're overthinking it," they're often telling you that your perspective isn't worth exploring. It can feel invalidating, as though your ability to reflect and consider possibilities is a flaw rather than a strength. Stoicism teaches us to seek clarity through reflection, to examine our thoughts with reason and purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." To label thoughtful introspection as overthinking is to dismiss one of the most valuable tools we have for understanding ourselves and the world around us. This phrase can be particularly harmful in relationships. Communication is the cornerstone of any meaningful connection. When someone tells you that you're overthinking, they're cutting off the opportunity for deeper understanding. Instead of addressing your concerns or engaging in a thoughtful discussion, they're effectively saying, "This doesn't matter enough for me to consider it." Over time, this can create a dynamic where you feel silenced or dismissed, as though your thoughts and feelings are too much to handle. It's also worth considering the intent behind this phrase. In some cases, it may come from a place of genuine frustration or a lack of understanding. But in others, it can be a deliberate attempt to avoid accountability. By labeling your concerns as overthinking, they shift the focus away from the issue at hand and onto you. This deflection can be a way to evade responsibility or sidestep difficult conversations. So how should you respond when someone says this? The Stoic approach encourages calm reflection and assertiveness. Instead of reacting defensively, take a moment to evaluate whether your thoughts are grounded in reason. Ask yourself, am I truly overanalyzing this, or are my concerns valid? If your reflection reveals that your thoughts are rooted in genuine concern, don't be afraid to stand your ground. You might say, "I've thought about this because it matters to me. I'd like to talk it through," instead of dismissing it. This response does two things. First, it reaffirms your right to be heard. Second, it invites the other person to engage with you in a meaningful way. However, if they continue to dismiss you or label you as an overthinker, it's a clear sign of emotional immaturity. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect and open communication. If someone consistently shuts you down, it may be time to reevaluate whether the relationship supports your growth and well-being. There's another layer to consider: the long-term effects of hearing this phrase repeatedly. Being told that you're overthinking can make you second-guess your instincts and suppress your natural tendency to reflect. Over time, you might begin to doubt your judgment, relying more on others' opinions and less on your own reasoning. This is a dangerous pattern because it disconnects you from your own wisdom. Stoicism reminds us to trust our ability to think clearly and independently, to act according to our principles rather than external pressures. Imagine a relationship where your thoughts and concerns are met with curiosity and care instead of dismissal. This is the hallmark of a Stoic relationship, one where both individuals are committed to understanding and supporting each other's growth. Dismissing someone as an overthinker undermines that foundation and creates a barrier to genuine connection. Ultimately, the phrase "you're overthinking it" should be a red flag, not a reason to doubt yourself. If someone regularly uses it to shut you down, it's a sign that they're not willing, or perhaps not capable, of engaging with you on a deeper level. Walking away from this kind of dynamic isn't a failure, it's an act of self-respect. It's choosing relationships that align with your values and allow you to thrive. The lesson here is simple but profound. Your thoughts are valuable and your concerns are valid. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. If someone can't meet you with the respect and understanding you deserve, it's time to leave. Because in the end, the right people won't see your reflection as overthinking, they'll see it as a strength. 8. It's all your fault. Have you ever been in a conversation or an argument where the other person flatly declared, "It's all your fault"? At that moment, it might feel like the weight of the world is being dropped on your shoulders. But let's stop and ask, is it really possible for one person to be entirely at fault in any situation? Or is this phrase just a way to dodge accountability and shift the blame onto you? When someone says, "It's all your fault," they are often trying to escape responsibility for their role in a problem. Instead of engaging in constructive dialogue or finding a solution together, they take the easy route, pointing the finger at you. This phrase isn't just unfair, it's harmful. It creates an unbalanced dynamic where one person is forced to carry the emotional burden of the relationship while the other avoids accountability. Stoicism teaches us to examine our role in any situation with honesty and courage. Marcus Aurelius said, "You must set your mind free from all confusion. You must face each difficulty as it comes with steady, even emotions, undisturbed by fears or desires." This wisdom reminds us that self-reflection is key to growth, but it doesn't mean accepting blame that isn't ours to bear. Responsibility in relationships is always shared. No single person is ever entirely at fault. Let's dig deeper into why this phrase is so damaging. When someone repeatedly tells you, "It's all your fault," it can erode your confidence and sense of self. Over time, you might start believing it, thinking that you're inherently flawed or incapable of doing anything right. This can lead to a toxic cycle of self-doubt and dependency, where you constantly seek validation from the very person who is undermining you. On the other hand, when someone refuses to accept their share of responsibility, it speaks volumes about their character. Healthy Stoic relationships are built on mutual accountability. Both people should be willing to examine their actions, admit mistakes, and work together to grow stronger. A person who deflects blame and refuses to engage in this process is showing you that they are not ready for the kind of partnership you deserve. How should you respond when faced with this phrase? A Stoic approach would be to remain calm and focused on the facts. Instead of reacting emotionally, try to shift the conversation toward a more balanced perspective. You might say, "I understand there's a problem, but I don't believe this is entirely my fault. Let's talk about what we both can do to address it." This response shows maturity and a willingness to collaborate while also rejecting the idea that you are solely to blame. However, if the other person continues to insist that everything is your fault, it's a red flag. This behavior suggests a lack of self-awareness and an unwillingness to grow. It's a sign that they are more interested in protecting their ego than in building a healthy relationship. Imagine being in a relationship where accountability is shared, where problems are approached as a team rather than a battleground. That's the kind of connection that allows both people to grow and thrive. On the other hand, staying in a relationship where blame is constantly shifted onto you will only hold you back. Walking away from someone who refuses to take responsibility isn't just an act of self-respect. It's a commitment to living in alignment with your values. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our responses, and our choices. Choosing to leave a toxic dynamic is one of the most empowering decisions you can make. If this resonates with you, if you've ever been told, "It's all your fault," and felt the weight of those words, I want to hear from you. Like this video and comment number 1 below if you've ever recognized the need to reclaim your power in a relationship. And if this message speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more insights on Stoicism, relationships, and personal growth. Remember, a relationship isn't a court of law where one person is always the guilty party. It's a partnership built on mutual respect and shared responsibility. If someone is constantly placing all the blame on you, they're showing you who they are. Believe them, and don't be afraid to take the steps necessary to protect your worth. You deserve better, and the right relationships will honor that. 9. You're imagining things. Have you ever brought up a concern or tried to address an issue only to hear the dismissive phrase, "You're imagining things"? It's the kind of statement that can stop you in your tracks, leaving you to wonder if your perceptions are flawed or if you've somehow misunderstood the situation. But here's the truth. This phrase is rarely about what you're imagining. It's about dismissing your perspective entirely. When someone says you're imagining things, they're often trying to invalidate your experience. Instead of engaging with your concerns or attempting to understand your point of view, they dismiss it outright. This is not just frustrating, it's a form of gaslighting. Gaslighting occurs when someone manipulates you into doubting your own reality. And phrases like this are classic tools for that manipulation. Stoicism reminds us to trust our reason and seek clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." This wisdom encourages us to remain open to new perspectives, but also grounded in our own understanding. When someone tells you you're imagining things, they're not offering clarity, they're shutting down the opportunity for growth and understanding. Let's consider the impact of hearing this phrase repeatedly. Over time, it can erode your confidence in your perceptions. You might begin to second-guess yourself, wondering if you're overly sensitive or reading too much into situations. This self-doubt can lead to a cycle of dependency, where you start relying on the other person's version of reality instead of trusting your own instincts. But here's the key question. Why would someone feel the need to tell you that you're imagining things? In many cases, it's a way to avoid accountability. By framing your concerns as imaginary, they don't have to address the issue or take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they shift the focus onto you, making you feel like the problem lies in your mind rather than in their behavior. This tactic is particularly harmful in relationships because it undermines trust and communication. Healthy, stoic relationships thrive on openness and mutual respect. When one person dismisses the other's feelings or perceptions, it creates a barrier to connection and growth. It sends the message that your thoughts don't matter, which is the antithesis of a supportive partnership. So how should you respond to this phrase? A stoic approach would involve remaining calm and grounded in your own reality. Instead of reacting emotionally, state your perspective clearly and assertively. For example, you might say, "I don't believe I'm imagining this. Let's talk about it so we can understand each other better." This response reaffirms your confidence in your perceptions while inviting dialogue rather than conflict. However, if the other person continues to dismiss your concerns as imaginary, it's a red flag. A partner or friend who truly values you will seek to understand your perspective, even if they disagree with it. Dismissing your thoughts outright shows a lack of respect and a refusal to engage meaningfully. Imagine being in a relationship where your feelings and perceptions are met with curiosity and care instead of dismissal. That's the kind of connection that fosters growth, understanding, and mutual respect. On the other hand, staying in a dynamic where you're constantly told you're imagining things will only lead to frustration and self-doubt. Ultimately, the Stoic lesson here is to trust yourself. Your thoughts and feelings are valid, even if others don't always agree with them. If someone repeatedly tries to make you doubt your reality, it's a sign that they may not have your best interests at heart. Walking away from this kind of dynamic isn't about giving up. It's about choosing to protect your mental clarity and emotional well-being. Remember, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own perceptions, actions, and choices. When you choose to walk away from someone who dismisses your reality, you're taking control of your life and prioritizing your inner peace. You deserve relationships that honor your perspective and encourage your growth, not ones that make you question your worth. 10. I can't deal with you right now. Have you ever reached out to someone you care about only to hear the words, "I can't deal with you right now"? It's a phrase that can feel like a slap in the face. In that moment, your feelings, concerns, or even your presence are brushed aside as if they don't matter. But what does this statement really say about the relationship? Is it a moment of frustration, or is it a pattern of emotional avoidance that leaves you feeling unseen and unsupported? Let's unpack this phrase. On the surface, it might seem like a fleeting expression of overwhelm. After all, everyone has moments when they feel stretched too thin to engage fully. However, when "I can't deal with you right now" becomes a repeated response to your attempts at communication, it signals a deeper issue. It's a way of shutting down connection, placing their needs above yours, and leaving you in emotional limbo. From a Stoic perspective, relationships thrive on mutual respect and shared effort, even in moments of difficulty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This wisdom reminds us to extend patience and understanding to those we care about, even when it's challenging. When someone dismisses you with, "I can't deal with you right now," they're failing to uphold that principle of tolerance and care. But the harm of this phrase goes beyond the moment it's said. Over time, being repeatedly dismissed can make you feel like a burden. You might start to question whether your needs are valid or whether you're asking for too much. This erosion of self-worth can lead to a pattern where you suppress your feelings, hoping to avoid conflict or rejection. Now let's consider why someone might use this phrase. In some cases, it's a sign of emotional immaturity. They might lack the skills or willingness to navigate difficult conversations, so they shut them down instead. In other cases, it's a way to exert control by dictating when and how communication happens. Either way, it's a behavior that undermines the trust and openness required for a healthy relationship. So how should you respond when someone says, "I can't deal with you right now." A Stoic approach would involve staying calm and grounded, even in the face of dismissal. Instead of reacting with anger or hurt, address the situation with clarity. You might say, "I understand that you're feeling overwhelmed, but it's important that we talk about this when you're ready. I need to feel heard too." This response does two things. First, it acknowledges their feelings without excusing their behavior. Second, it sets a clear expectation for communication and mutual respect. However, if the pattern persists, if they consistently refuse to engage or make you feel like your concerns are secondary, it's a sign that the relationship may not be serving your well-being. Imagine a relationship where even in moments of tension, your feelings are met with care and effort instead of dismissal. That's the essence of a Stoic relationship, one where both people prioritize understanding and connection even when it's hard. On the other hand, staying in a relationship where "I can't deal with you right now" becomes the norm will only leave you feeling isolated and undervalued. Leaving a dynamic like this isn't about being unforgiving. It's about protecting your emotional health and prioritizing relationships that align with your values. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. And in this case, that means choosing to surround yourself with people who respect and support you, even when life gets difficult. If you've ever experienced this kind of dismissal and felt the impact it had on your well-being, I want to hear from you. Like this video and comment number 1 below to let me know you're ready to prioritize your worth and protect your peace. And if this message resonates with you, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more insights on Stoicism, relationships, and personal growth. Remember, relationships should never leave you questioning your worth or silencing your voice. The right people won't dismiss you when things get tough. They'll lean in even when it's hard. If someone shows you through their actions that they can't or won't do that, it's time to walk away. You deserve relationships that honor your value, support your growth, and meet you with the respect you deserve. Words are powerful. They reveal intentions, shape relationships, and over time either build us up or tear us down. Each of the phrases we've explored, "You're too sensitive," "You'll never find anyone better than me," "I was just joking," "Stop overreacting," and so on, carries a deeper message that can undermine your confidence, your peace, and your self-worth. But here's the truth. You have the power to protect your worth. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our actions, our choices, and our mindset. You can't control how others treat you, but you can decide what you tolerate and whom you allow into your life. Walking away from toxic language isn't weakness, it's strength. It's a declaration that you value yourself enough to seek relationships that uplift and inspire you, not ones that diminish you. Ask yourself, are you surrounded by people who respect your feelings, honor your boundaries, and meet you with care and understanding? Or are you caught in dynamics where you're constantly defending your worth? The answers to these questions are your guide. The lesson here is simple yet profound. Your worth is non-negotiable. You don't have to prove it, defend it, or justify it to anyone. The right relationships, Stoic relationships, will celebrate who you are, not tear you down or make you question your value. If this video resonated with you, let it be a reminder that you are not alone in this journey. There are people who will see you for who you truly are and love you for it. Don't settle for anything less. Thank you for watching, and I encourage you to take action today. Reflect on the relationships in your life and decide where your energy is best invested. If you found value in this message, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Together, we can create a ripple effect of self-respect, growth, and better relationships. Remember, your worth is priceless. Protect it fiercely. And as you move forward, may you find the strength to prioritize the peace and clarity you deserve. Wishing you growth, resilience, and the relationships that honor your true value.